Hello, my name is Shoshanna, and this evening I am talking to the very talented artist, multimodal artist, I should say, ceramicist, candle maker, budding author, Suzie Mansley. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So I guess the first question is, how did this all begin? At did you get that that first little spark of art is what I want to do?
Well, I always was drawn to art at school, and then I left school and got into fashion and went in a different direction. And it just kept calling me, and I thought, oh, I'll go and do a diploma of visual art. And I found clay and ceramics and fell in love with the whole process. And yeah, 5 years later, I started out with working on the wheel. Wheel throwing, and I did start 2D and 3D, like half and half with the course, but became obsessed with the ceramics, so got right into that.
Brilliant. And so the ceramics, that was something that you found along the way through already studying the visual arts?
Yeah, we had quite a range of things that we worked through in the diploma, but the clay and doing the ceramics was something that really challenged me. I think we had about 20 people in the class, and only 2 of us ended up working on the wheel because it's very frustrating. So I wanted to perfect the form of wheel throwing. So instead of trying big balls of clay that take years to master, I started with 40 or 50 grams of clay, and I thought I could start small and perfect form and then get bigger. But then I found I adored making the miniatures, and I would make 40 or 50 at a time. And I started to notice a pattern as I made them and put them up to dry, that they had little interconnected flow just through the form naturally. So then I started putting them in groupings of families, and then I worked on glazes and mixing up glazes and creating them. Yeah, sorry, obviously have to edit that bit. Yeah. Sorry, next question. Yeah.
That's all right. Let's continue talking about the miniatures, because that's something that I noticed looking at your work that was so striking. I've never seen miniature ceramics before. So was that just from experimentation?
I was through frustration. I want to know how to speak 5 languages without learning the language. I want to be a master ceramicist so I thought I can't throw, this 20-kilo pot in 5 minutes. So I spent hundreds of hours just perfecting the smaller work, and I cut tools down and just learn. You over time learn, okay, in 5 seconds, this clay is going to collapse from being overworked. So you really got into the synchronicity of it all. It's quite melodical, that whole process.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess the miniature element of it has kind of become a signature of yours in many ways.
Yeah, most definitely. I was drawn to it as well because I love photography, and I was, again, fascinated with. We miss so much in life, walking down the street. You get caught up in what's going on in your head rather than what's around you. So I had a passion with photography. So I'm, photographing the fly on that flower, or the underneath of a mushroom, or the sunlight coming through a leaf. And then that progressed into the clay work, where I wanted to think of looking at something in a different way. So I called them monumental miniatures, depending on what perspective you look at things, if they're big or they're small. And that's how I progressed into that. And at the end of the diploma, we had an exhibition, and I decided that I was going to go on and study the Bachelor of Visual Arts, which Canberra Uni was offering on the Sunshine Coast in combination with TAFE. And I thought, I'm going to push myself further. I hadn't gone to university. I wanted to, and thought, better now than never. And I ended up being awarded a scholarship from the Australian Decorative Fine Arts Society of Noosa, they picked one of the graduates from the diploma, and they thought that my work suited what they were looking for. And it's usually a one-off scholarship to go towards study. And the beautiful story is that they have followed me through the last 5 years. They thought, oh, we're going to give you another scholarship for next year. What are you studying next year? And they've really supported me and encouraged me to go further with my study and the development of my work. So each year I give a talk to them at the end of the year at their AGM. And I was thinking, oh, it's going to be like 10 people that are, you know, retired and pretty relaxed, and I'd had a big day at work and just changed my clothes and ran in there. And I was horrified. There was like 120 people, and I'm like, oh my goodness, and a clicker and double screens.
Oh,
and so
wow.
I was like, okay, quick, deep breath. And yeah, but I find when you talk about what you're passionate about, it's just enjoyable, not terrifying.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So that has continued, and that started from the miniatures. So I have continued the miniatures throughout each, progression of my work. And the next stage of the miniatures was exploring glazes, and that chemistry of, adding 2 grams of copper carbonate and 5 grams of this, and if you have it in the wrong temperature, or you take the oxygen out and do a reduction firing, it doesn't come out green, it comes out red, or you do the wrong blend and, it blows up or melts. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're saying the kind of 2 grams and the 5 grams, and these are really small elements.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded, there's the small elements there in the glazing, there's the small elements in the miniatures, and I notice in your photography too, it's very much close up. It's about the tiny things that we don't see.
Yeah.
Everything is on a micro level. And is that a fascination of yours in life, or is that just kind of happened, that your art has kind of led you towards this?
No, I think that's always been there. They say, oh, it's the little things that count, but I just think there's so much beauty in life that we're always looking ahead instead of being where we are and living in the moment. I think when you live in the moment, you see those little things, or you find beauty in those things. And a big part of my life is gratitude. And when you have gratitude, I just think you see a lot more. You breathe a little deeper and you look around at what's there, and that's where I've captured some amazing things. I don't know if you saw on my Instagram the doves, the shadows of the doves.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So I was at the markets packing up, and I could hear like the market chatter and the noise of the metal and everything, and the doves were like cooing, and I could hear this little scratching. So I look up, and there was the silhouette of the doves on top of the tarp with the berries that had fallen out of the tree, and they were eating them. So I filmed that for ages, and it was just stunning, absolutely stunning, just how the light falls through things and the shadow of things. So I think that's always been there, that fascination of seeing beautiful things that you might miss if you're in a rush.
Absolutely, yeah. Taking those small moments to really appreciate. Yeah, that's a really wonderful thought.
Yeah.
And you don't just work with kind of your traditional ceramic, you also utilise other materials. I know we were talking before about cotton and metal and...
Yeah. So last year, when I finished my Bachelor of Visual Art, I realised that I still had this unquenched thirst, I have to continue on with my experimentation. So I undertook a year of honours in art and design, and that's where I really focused on embedding porcelain with stainless steel and cottons, and working out firing schedules with the kilns. When will the stainless steel, like I'd weave sculptures, then dip them, dry them, over 4 or 5 times, and then work out what temperature does the stainless steel or the metal melt, and what temperature does the porcelain harden? So that follow through of the interconnectedness in, you know, relationships and form in between materials. You know, when does one support the other? And that I really explored that for the whole year. I could still probably do another, you know, 5 years of that, but I had to stop.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was with metals and the cottons. What happens with the cottons is as you fire it to the, say, 1280 degrees, the cotton burns out of the porcelain, so you're left with the memory of what was, which I find, you know, quite beautiful. And then putting light through it again really takes you to a different, you know, a different place.
Absolutely, yeah. And where did that idea spring from?
In research, when I was looking at, you know, pottery's been around for a really long time, and it's just, I think, you know, so many things in life you're just reinventing or looking at from a different perspective. And I hope this doesn't offend anyone, but I don't really like brown pottery, or like, you know, I know brown's in, but it's just not me. So I wanted to find out, how can I make clay look like metal, or porcelain look like cotton, you know, or how do you make hard things look soft or soft things look hard? So I experimented with the porcelain embedded with the metal, but then I worked out I wanted to look at glazes. So you have that sculpture you've created, then I look at glazes that mimicked the look of metal embedded in porcelain. So, but it was like a black slip with a different crawling glaze over the top, but then connecting them. So you couldn't tell where one ended and one began. But someone passing by might think, oh, it's all one piece. But I knew that, you know, that was porcelain with metal in it, and that bit there was actually porcelain with a glaze on. And as it cooled, it was an uneven cooling process, so it cracked. Yeah.
Okay, fascinating. And you've also, this is something I'm very excited about because you will be showing it at Imagined Worlds.
Yes.
Now you have a wardrobe, and I'd like you to tell us kind of what you've done with this wardrobe that makes it especially interesting, shall we say?
Well, I found this wardrobe just online. And it's about, I think it's about 50 years old, and it's a great story about it. I went to pick it up, and I wanted to use it as, put my sculpture inside the wardrobe. And when I went to pick it up, it was a really beautiful story. So there was this husband and wife there, and they were selling the parents' old cottage. And I found out that the wardrobe had a lot of meaning to them, because the husband used to walk, I think, about an hour and a half on Wednesday afternoons to have dinner with his girlfriend, who was 17, with the family, and the wardrobe was all part of that. So, when I bought that from them, they wanted me to send photos to them of what happened. But so what I did was I drilled holes around the shelving of the wardrobe and on the ends, and I wanted a little, it sounds funny when you say it out loud, but like a little peephole into another world. So like, what's this, a wardrobe? Oh, come on. And so you walk up to it, and then in each shelf, there's a different sculptural piece. And then in the largest part of the wardrobe, I did a lighting porcelain installation in there, which is, it does take you to another world, because you're not expecting it to be in there. Some people that have seen it have said, oh, it reminds me of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or, you know, or having that, you know, walking into the wardrobe and being in another world. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to exhibit that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And where did the inspiration for this particular project come from?
I had been making all of my sculptural pieces, and I wanted to bring lighting into it, but I originally had thought about having, like, building this flat pack room that you could go in, but then I was thinking workplace health and safety, and I'm always tripping on things, big feet. And so I thought, okay, I have to do something that's safe for people to see, but it sort of ignites their curiosity a bit, like, what's a wardrobe doing over in the corner? And then no sign or anything, and I had a rug underneath it. It just looked like, you know, someone's old style house, and just wandering up to it, I wanted to have people just be a little bit curious about what was over there, and then be taken back by the beauty of light through porcelain, but in a different way. So it is porcelain, it is clay, but it's a different way of looking at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, I'm struck by the idea of making it small, you know, taking what could have been a big room and making it compact, making it small again. And I love that idea, because you are transported into this tiny realm, which when you do actually look into it, you could be in space. You know, there's no sense of it being small. There's no, your perception is really manipulated with, I guess, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I did want to have that feel where you didn't know where it ended.
Yeah.
So I lined the wardrobe with a mirror, but just like a contact mirror.
Yeah.
And then it was on a core flute. And then when I put it on, I was a bit disappointed with the lines. But when you actually put it in there and put the light on it, it gave it another dimension again. So, you know, an error turned out to being something that gave it a lot more depth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by the process. Was it particularly labour intensive?
The wardrobe, or
Yeah, the wardrobe, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I thought, this won't take so long. But I got Brian from engineering to come over to drill. I don't think they trusted me with power tools for some reason. I had overalls and everything. So Brian came over and I told him what I wanted. He thought I was crazy. And I said, I want these peepholes in the wardrobe. And he's like, okay, Suzie. And I also do a bit of work with a retired engineer, Westy, and we've done a few collaborations together. So I asked him for his advice, and he found some, you know, on the end of stainless steel tables, that there's that protector, the black and metal. So he got me some of that, and I lined the holes with that. So it did take a while to do. And actually installing the lighting component on the left-hand side of the wardrobe took hours of, there's a thread really fine line through the middle of the sculptures, and then fed the lighting through, and then hung it internally on a grid, and then put the false ceiling and floor in. So it did take a while. But,
yeah, incredible. Well, I'm sure our audience will be fascinated. I was just wondering if you could tell us what your thoughts are about projects like Switchboard Arts, and what what role they play in the life of our artists.
I think that when I first heard about the Switchboard project, I was really excited, because you do a lot of artists work alone, creating, and then you come together and you have your collaboration. And I felt that it was a wonderful platform to be able to be supported instead of feeling alienated when you're out there trying to develop your business and your artistic world. So I've found it a wonderful opportunity to feel supported, and to be able to have people who specialise, in media and putting things together and interviewing and filming, and bringing everyone together from 2D to 3D to performing to the music side of things as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a wonderful platform to feel supported and generate interest, and local artists bring them all together, and the public. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So we will see you on the 23rd of October, and you'll be able to see some of Suzie's amazing pieces, and we look forward to seeing you then.